Hello everyone, welcome to Satsang. For those who are not aware, we use WhatsApp as a means of communication. You can send your questions directly to me. Let's make some silence first. Quiet. No matter what thoughts arise, remain untouched, abstracted. Where does attention remains, as it is abstracted? Like a rock that sinks onto the bottom of the ocean. So does attention stays untouched by the waves, the currents. There's nothing important for you to look, to evaluate, to involve, to invest. So let go. Okay, so just reminding you that at any moment you can send your questions, either during satsang or after or before, it doesn't matter. If you have more questions about what's being talked about, then it is an opportunity for you to clarify. Hello, my friend. I'm going to answer your question now. So, dear Sriman, I see that there is importance given to the health of the body. It is not important to take good care of the body as long as one is not awakened, since it is with the body that the spiritual practice is done. You say to cut all importance given outward. Can you give examples of how to do on this topic? Does that mean I should stop doing exercise, stop controlling the way I eat? You see, in whatever practice you're undergoing, if it is spiritual practice, if it is for the purpose of freedom, eventually, you will be face to face to your beliefs, to your fears, to the strings that tie you, that keep you tied to illusion. So first of all, one thing that is important to clarify is that whatever practice you're doing, whatever you're engaged with, the purpose is to cut the strings that attach you to illusion. Your strings, your strings. So usually seekers go to this teaching, to that teaching, to this opinion, to that opinion, more or less looking for something that is in tune with what they feel it's right. And this is limiting. This is why I always say that you need to prepare yourself until guidance comes. Because guidance will go directly towards your attachments, towards those strings that tie you to illusion. And the difficulty in preparing yourself for guidance or being in face of guidance is the preciousness of these strings. So as long as this quest for freedom is not mature at the right place, and that means as long as you're not convinced that the body-mind complex is there to maintain itself, it is the obstacle to enlightenment, it is that which maintains illusion, it will be very difficult, because you will look through the teachings and you will try to find the teachings that correlate with your vision of the path of freedom. But understand that that vision of the path of freedom, there are many visions available. And the vision that resonates more for the body-mind complex, for the individual, is that gives two things. One, the logic, the sense that you're on the right track, and at the same time that maintains the individual. So this is what the individual is looking for, because he has the urge to awaken, but at the same time he wants to survive. So that which wants to awaken from is actually that which keeps slumber, is slumber. And there are levels of beliefs that can be questioned and that cannot be questioned and can never absolutely be questioned. These are the beliefs by importance. So the more you can come close to the unquestionable ones, the better. But to give an example, it's like the balloon. A balloon, as it has strings attached to the ground, you may be forcing the fire onto the balloon, and it is expanding, turning big, increasing the pressure, but it's not leaving. So eventually, it's not about the fire that you're putting into the balloon, but the cutting of the ropes. But there's a specific kind of seeker that is after freedom, but he is being moved by greed, arrogance, and all of this. So this kind of seeker, depending on the intensity of these characteristics, he can sacrifice whatever it is. But that's not sacrifice, that is investment towards the gratification of his greed. So this is why spiritual work has to be combined always with humility. This has to be growing. If it's not growing, if you're not observing this, then your balloon is just moving like this, not upwards, but into the horizon, just flat on the ground. And it is moving, and it's not that bad. It's better than nothing, but it has to increase, because this voracity, this arrogance, this has to come down, so that the balloon can go up instead of just moving like this. That is just one side of the issue. For each and every seeker, the ropes that tie him to his delusion, they are very particular to him. In general terms, you can see similarities, but general doesn't work for each and every one of you. So when you're looking around, giving too much trust to your judgment, what happens is you get involved with that can give you a sense that you're doing something, and at the same time can preserve delusion as it is. So the more your attention lies in the outward strings of your perception, like that target that I explained a previous satsang. A target for target practice, for example, there is the center. This is where attention must be, the source of the eye. And there's these lines that move, that are more and more away from the center. And that is where importance are being given the most. So that which is connected to the physical body and the physical body beyond, that is the outward lines, very distant from the center. So, this is not your quest for freedom, is going through your own delusion, and that is sustained by your own beliefs about what keeps you deluded and what will awaken you. Both, all of this is part of that world. So this is where guidance plays the important role of releasing you from yourself. So this is a general explanation before I get more into detail about this question. And this is connected to these questions. For example, this is a question about the health of the body, and I will go to it. But there's questions about, what about this technique? But what about this teaching? Because in the scriptures, they say that this is better than that. And then the others, they go get another scripture and they say, no, but here it says that this is much more important than that, and so forth. And you tend to agree with one and to disagree with the other. And to some extent, that which you're disagreeing with, maybe it's more important for you than that which you are agreeing with. You cannot use this as a logic, but just giving an example. But eventually, if you're sincere, whatever practice, as you intensify it, you will, as it is a meditation technique that you're holding your attention onto, or holding on to the source of the I, apart from everything else. This is like the balloon, you're putting fire onto it. It is increasing its upward movement. So the ropes that are attaching you to delusion, or what you call reality, they start to stretch. And as they stretch, you will know that they are there. You will start to see them. As it is, the health of the body, or the importance of family, friends, possessions, whatever, they will start one by one, because those that come first, it's not all. It is that which is more visible. Then as you are able to break that one, others will appear, those that are next. Okay, so let's go to the question. So, if there is importance given to the health of the body, what does that mean immediately? So you're cutting importance with the body, with everything else apart from remaining at the source. And there's importance to the physical body, because as long as I'm not awakened, I have to take care of it, so that, because I'm using it for awakening. You can see the circle closing here. So this importance is given to maintain the body in its quest for freedom, as long as it's not awakened. But how can awakening happen if this importance is being given? And you have to look how deep this importance goes. Because eventually, everybody that is on this quest for real and is working hard, you eventually will reach a point that when all importance are cut, then the importance of the life of the body comes into play, comes into question. And you will have to go through it all also. And if in that moment you hold on, you preserve that rope, well, you go back to where you were. Everything is tested, is put to the test so that it can be cut. So what does this mean, doing exercises? For example, you have Hatha Yoga. You can put it as an exercise. Yes, and you can say, okay, so I practice Hatha Yoga, it will help me and it will keep my body healthy. Yes and no, because As you are practicing whatever it is jogging, hatha yoga, or whatever, because there is this importance given to health and the preservation of the body and all of this, it is going counter to your work of silence and stillness. Doesn't matter the rest. Second, and this is something that it is difficult to enter the minds of a lot of seekers. If you're practicing intense sadhana, if you're doing intense spiritual work, if you're in the process of freedom, that doesn't mean that you'll be healthy. It doesn't. There is a lot of exercises and a lot of things, and either it is connected to spirituality or not. There's a lot of things that promote health, that promised health, and still people get sick. So this is a larger topic. I will concentrate this on the spiritual quest. If you're doing intense practices or exercising the body to promote health as you continue your quest for freedom and all of this, that does not guarantee that you'll be healthy. If you're burning intense sanskars, mental impressions, you can look it up on, those who don't know what it is, you can look the term sanskars. On Indian philosophy, you will find a lot of things. Eventually, it can happen, nothing is guaranteed, but it can happen even for you to manifest an intense disease, for example, for the purpose of burning karma. It can happen, anything can happen. Nothing guarantees anything. You can be in the face of death and still you'll have to go beyond it and find out what is on the other side. Nothing guarantees anything. And each one, according to what it needs, will be tested on different levels, will experience things on different levels. What you call physical reality here. Some have their tests here at this level. Others, they go through intense diseases, for example, body dies, and they go beyond that physical body perception. They go to the next level of perception, and they see directly, okay, so the body died, I am not the body, there it was, and this breaks their beliefs about that in a way, and they continue their work at other levels, because individual perception only ends with awakening, not with the death of the physical body. So this forgetfulness into what it is called incarnation, but there's no such thing because it is continuous experience. So this is a help in a sense, and it is part of the game. But doing spiritual practices does not guarantee health. You have to put this in your mind. So the physical body can serve a lot of different purposes. For a worldly person, it serves one purpose. The way that person eats is one, because if that person will eat as a spiritual person does, not as a spiritual person, as the one who is engaged intensely in spiritual practices. If you eat too much, there's no intensity in spiritual practices. Not possible. Because you'll be too dense. And for you to eat like someone who is a worldly person with worldly activities, that would be too much. For that person to eat as the one who is intensely in spiritual practices, that would be too less. And the body, according to the level of of your beliefs, of the experience you're having, will have different levels of functioning. Those who are in the world, that are with worldly investments, they take up more dense nurturing. Those who are practicing intense spiritual sadhana, they get more subtle food, energy, prana. So the physical part, the physical food doesn't need to be too much. And as you are focusing on your spiritual practice, to intensify it, you will see that it becomes too much and you'll have to cut. And then there is a struggle there because the mind and your belief says, no, but I need this. But your body, if you're paying attention, says no. Your energy says no, it is too much. But as the beliefs are stronger, there will be a conflict there. But then you will start to see that, well, it is too much, and then you try to cut it and you will see that it benefits. It lets you go deeper into your practice. So all the way, it is a struggle with own beliefs. Own beliefs. It is like this. As you are exercising and building muscles to sustain and to maintain health and all of this, you are densifying. As you eat more dense food, you become more dense. Energy becomes more dense. And the more dense energy is, less silence there will be, more restlessness there will be. The less it will be possible to remain at the source. More agitation, all will be there. The more subtle it is, the more close you can remain, more time, less agitation, more pure mind remains. There's one important spiritual practice that it is deemed for everybody, which is fasting. Because as you start to fast, immediately your mind becomes more focused. So what does that mean? But if you're maintaining a balance with your spiritual practices and your worldly activities, you will not be able to see this principle. Because you're not really pulling to deepen. It is balance, more or less, your investments. It doesn't go far. Yes, it doesn't, because these are conflicting. And you have to be turning yourself exclusively to one point, and that will bring conflict to the other parts. And either you embrace them or you let them go. And this is how it moves. So, the only worry for the seeker of truth is to remain, to intensify silence, to remain at the source more time, depending on the level of its practice. If it is more superficial, to be more engaged in meditation, to be able to hold on that technique longer, to practice it longer periods of time. And this automatically will lead you to reduce the food, not as a concept, oh, I should reduce. No, you will see practically. And this is the important part. Everything which is important gets seen in practical terms. If you're pulling in that direction, if you're not, you will not be able to see. But if you're pulling in that direction, intensifying your spiritual practices, you will see if you eat too much, for example, then it becomes more heavy and it doesn't go, or more agitated. You eat less and then it becomes better. And you will see certain foods are better for you, others are not, and it's not something that it is good for all. You will have to figure out your own things, and you will. as you keep on pushing towards silence, pushing towards stillness, these things, the obstacles will be visible. And at the same time, if you're reducing your food, you may think that nourishment will not be there if you imagine that the nourishment comes from food. But if you're intensifying your meditation or your stillness or whatever you want to call it, then the influx of energy increases exponentially. And you will see, if you're really focusing on this, you will not feel hunger. The feeling of hunger is a direct sign that the vibration has fallen down. As you keep it high, you will not experience hunger. So the needs that you are experiencing now are according to your level of beliefs first, and then the kind of reality that you are living. Nothing else. So there's no point in looking of what people say is healthy or not. No point. You have to feel it by yourself and to see the impacts this has directly on you. If meditation or stillness is the center of your practice, you will have to reduce, not because I'm saying, not because it is written somewhere, because you are trying really, and you will see the need for that reduction. And the less you eat, the more the body, it changes its way of functioning, and the more it takes more from less, spending less energy, and it conserves energy. There are those who don't eat, and those who don't eat, for those who know about these people, when you don't eat, you don't sleep. It is a fact. Because no need for sleeping. Sleeping is a part of cleaning and restoring that part which is spent, used to digest the food, to the process of the food and all of this. No eating, no sleeping. Energy is abundant. So you think things are giving you energy, but they are not, they are taking them away from you. If you're in that process of reaching the highest spheres, going towards freedom, you will see these principles. And that doesn't mean that you have to eat, you don't have to eat, you eat less, you eat more. It doesn't mean anything. Because eventually, everything is according to what it has to be. But it tells you that none of those beliefs you have about what is right are real, are absolute. And you will see, if you continue to intensify your spiritual practices, that something which is a reality now will change drastically later, and again and again and again and again, according to the need. So whatever you think is what has to be, what it is right, will change, and it will be right again. A new right will come, and then it will be wasted. And this will tell you, indirectly or directly, if you're paying attention, that whatever you consider absolute has nothing of absolute in it. Absolutely nothing. And this is how these inner beliefs are shredded to pieces. It is like this with these direct experiences. But if you eat according to the needs of your meditation, for sure, your food will become more nutritious, more healthy, indirectly. And the less you eat, the more healthy your body will be. So these things will come indirectly. But if you're doing this, concerned about health, then you're missing the point. As to physical exercise, for example, if you have Hatha Yoga, It is supposed for you, in a way, it is supposed to be practiced as a kind of meditation. There are different levels of practice, different kinds of practice, and those who are more agitated, they prefer a more vigorous practice because it is more according to their level of agitation. And the more silence there is, the more level of silence, the more deep your concentration can go, you will start to prefer slower movements until the asanas become a meditation. They say that an asana is perfected when you can remain 2 to 3 hours in that posture, is in that meditation. So it stops being a physical exercise. But as it isn't, Hatha Yoga is supposed to prepare the body for longer periods of meditation, for silence, and is supposed to end in meditation. Why is that? To elevate that energy. Because in whatever exercise you're doing, if you're not doing seva, or even if you're doing seva outwardly, but not with that attitude, you're creating rajasic energy. And this is agitation, restlessness, greed, and all of these things. Taking care of your needs. This is rajas. And this is countering your silence, the silence you're trying to increase. This is countering that stillness you are trying to intensify. It is counter. So why should you be building this energy? So then you have to sublimate it. So it is keeping a balance between worldly and spiritual. If you forget about that and you don't create more rajas, then you'll just be sublimating that rajas that it is there already. No new one is required. If you look at the bodies of yogis, real yogis, not modern yogis, maybe there is some, okay, but old yogis, you would see the bodies would thin, very thin. What does that mean? You see, it's like there is a fire. There's a fire there that burns. That fire is responsible to cook your food and to do all those things, and it's like burning outward. There is a pause here. Just wait a minute. Okay. It's more or less burning outward, and those who have the vision of these energetic things, they will see this. This is how it moves. With time, in this process of elevating consciousness, of going deeply into silence, it is shifting this fire that is burning like this, and it's turning upwards. The more food you give, the more you maintain it here, and it densifies and makes the body bigger. As it shifts, it starts feeding directly. This fire feeds directly, not through the food, but through the fire itself. Bodies become thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner. So the process of materializing things here, it's from the most subtle to the most dense. The process of elevating consciousness, of intensifying silence, is grabbing that which is denser and transform it into something subtler, 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 subtler. It is the opposite. So, worldly activities with a worldly purpose, they are about materializing things. Either your safety, your survival, your continuance, it doesn't matter. So it is to bring something which is subtler, your beliefs, your fears, compared to that which is physically manifested. The spiritual process, the spiritual work is opposite to this. So whatever beliefs you hold dear, whatever is there, you will have to test it. Oh, but if I don't do this, oh, I'll be in pain, I will be in disease. Okay, but let's see it then. Now I'm in disease. Okay, what comes next? Let's see. You'll die. Okay, let's see what that is. And just turning on to silence. These things are difficult to deal with because people don't want this. They want security. And the spiritual path, the path of awakening, has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with security. That is kindergarten. And if you're betting your chips, your time into the preservation of the body so that you will be healthier, well, health, it's not guaranteed, but that long journey of waiting for awakening, that will continue, and the body will be your only reality, for sure. That will be guaranteed. If it is a fear, if there's importance connected to it, cut it. But this doesn't need to be at the mental level. As you put your spiritual practice as number one, only goal, it doesn't matter if you're at a certain level of silence already and you want to go deeper just holding on to the source, or if you're still fighting some noise, agitation, holding on to a meditation technique, trying to increase it. It doesn't matter. If you put that number one, you will use that as a means to direct all other aspects that come. And it is very simple. That which disturbs or, how do you say this? That which disturbs or becomes an obstacle to silence, for those who are already established in silence, for those who are fighting with noise, that which is maintaining or increasing their level of agitation has to be put aside. That which helps become more quiet, more peaceful to those in agitation, or to remain more at the source for those who have a deeper of silence, bigger. That which disturbs is put aside, that which helps is intensified. And this changes a lot from each and every one. And for sure, in this process, you will be there deceiving yourself. It takes a little time to tune this because you are the only obstacle to freedom. Your beliefs, those who are tied up. So eventually, there is a part of you that wants freedom, another part that doesn't want. This is what takes time. And this is why guidance plays the ultimate role. But without that, take your practice as the guide as you are not prepared for guidance. And what helps, you keep. What disturbs, you put aside. And like this, you will see the next obstacle. Because if you're staying there and not doing anything with that which is coming to you in your perceptions, you will not be able to see more beyond. You may even think that, okay, so if I take this, it solves everything. But it doesn't. It just makes you grow a little bit more and then be able to see more. So this should be the guiding part. if you'll be healthy, if you get a disease, if that body lives, if that body dies, it doesn't make a difference. If that body is close to its sources of attachment, if it is away from its sources of attachment, it doesn't matter. What matters is there's no attachment. The strings are cut. This is what matters. And without honesty, without intense thirst, you will not be able to see, because you'll be deceiving yourself. And that is 90% of the time you're in self-deception. And if you look at this number, which is a nice number, because usually it is longer time, but okay, but if you look at this number, you can reduce it drastically, because you will start to pay more attention to this. You will start to question your reasonings and your convictions and all of that. Just look with the devil's eye. How do you say this in English? The lawyer of the devil. What does the individual has to benefit from this belief? How am I protecting myself with this belief? Instead of saying, oh, this helps to this and that and justifying, but wait. What does my delusion and deception has to gain from this? These are better questions. Because you will always find a feedback to what you believe in. Always. You're asking a question here, for example, and you may agree, you may disagree, and you may agree with this now or disagree, and you'll find something that you can agree apart from this. So you're just basing yourself on your world, on your illusion. But if you start questioning it, what do I have to gain from this? That seems innocent. It will become visible. And then you can make a better assessment if you're really gaining or losing. Because if you're gaining something that maintains you deluded, you're losing, not gaining. It's like, for example, you see, you're in a situation that there is a good deed there to be made. And good deeds are good. For example, they bring me benefits, they make me a better person, and that is just a means for something else, not the end. And it's just an example, and you have to understand that I'm speaking to different people in different levels of practice, and it's just an example. But at the same time, if in any way you can gain self-importance from that, then it is not good. It's better to be dropped if vanity, pride, and all these things are there. So everything needs to be questioned there for you to be able to access your own mechanics. What matters for the seeker of truth is not health of the body. It's nothing concerned to these things. It is deepening their silence, deepening their spiritual practices. This is what matters, and this is that which guides everything. So whatever is there, important, unimportant, everything is put aside. What matters is what helps to intensify silence and what disturbs it. In general terms, exercise creates rajasic energy, creates restlessness, agitation, creates a vibration which is opposed to stillness. And your mind will be less and less able to deepen. And probably there are some of you that say that, no, but that doesn't make a difference. It doesn't disturb whatsoever. And that can be for two reasons that you are saying this. First reason, you're so agitated, so dense, that for you to be able just to sit 5 minutes or 1 hour with very little noise there, it is something very good. And you have absolutely no idea what is to deepen a practice. Or you've really gone beyond these things and you're free already, and that doesn't make a difference also. Those who are in the middle, it doesn't work like this. It is like that with the physical body, it is with everything. If you're trying to guarantee the health of the body so that you will have health, because yoga teaches this, the longer you can maintain that body, the more time, the more conditions you will have. And it is true at one level. But there's a lot of different teachings in yoga that goes against this also. And they are for different levels. So if you're worried about your health, if you're worried about your income to maintain that body, to maintain that health, so that you can, if you're worried about a roof over that body's head, so you will have to worry about income to protect that roof. If you're worried about relations, if you worry about these things, the only thing you'll guarantee is these things. That will be granted. And, my friends, I will have to tell you that the body has a different journey. It's a horizontal journey. It's not horizontal, but I don't know the name in English. But you will understand eventually, hopefully. There's this journey of life. It's like moving into, the body moving into the planet Earth. It just moves straight in front in a straight line. It's just going around. It doesn't move anywhere. And this is the journey of the body. And this is the journey of consciousness. It may rise or it may not. Just in simple terms. So, if diseases will have to be there, they will be there. Sometimes it is a need in spiritual practices. And if you're intensifying, you will not know what will come out of that. And sometimes it is a need, and people have to materialize an intense disease that wipes them out. And then they move to that other level, and sometimes they come back again immediately. And this is a part of their sadhana, a part of their vision and understanding of what is the nature of reality. And those who are looking, oh, but he was doing spiritual practices and he got sick and he died, so I better not do this. And there are others that can see other things. Everyone just catches what they can according to their level of understanding, fears, and all of that. But these things, they don't mean anything. And if you have to materialize something to be lived, to be burnt, then so be it. It is a part. No problem. Any situation is God-given. So it is to your greater good. And sometimes you go to hell for your greater good. And that is good if it is for the greater good. But if you don't believe, if you're not surrendering, then you'll not be able to see, you'll just see hell, unending hell. Or just the Sahara Desert, without the oasis, of course. The most important things are the beliefs that are there. Those are the hindrances to delusion. Nothing guarantees anything. The only guarantee you have is if you don't walk, you'll just remain where you are. And this individual experience is guaranteed unless you're able to transcend it. That is what's guaranteed. A healthy existence, unhealthy existence, it doesn't matter. It's just circumstances. So the yogic advice in food for spiritual practices is nurturing simple, easy digestible food like porridge, khichdi, fruits, milk, some cooked. Why cooked? So that you don't waste too much time too much energy in digesting it. Because the more stillness you have, the more energy you're building, more energy. And that energy in time becomes vibration of a different level. With time, with purification and all of that. So wasting energy with food, with a lot of things is not logical. Okay. So if there's any more questions connected to this subject, feel free to ask. Okay, my friend, I will answer your question now. So, dear Shrima, the answer that I retain to my last satsang question is, be radical. I agree. What does being radical mean to you? Leave everything, work, family. What do you enlighten about adapt? I won't be in satsang because of time. Thank you for the answer. Okay, so first of all, being radical, what does it mean for me? It doesn't make a difference. If it meant anything for me, it would be useless for you. So this be radical that I've given you to the last question is to that situation you're finding yourself. A balance between worldly and spiritual. Okay, so this is ending here. Let me just wait a little bit. Just a moment. Okay. So for those who are in Instagram, 1 hour has passed, so I started again. So let us just give a few minutes, then I go back to the question. Funny question. Okay. Oh, Fred, I will go to this your question after. Okay. So let us go back to the previous question for those who missed it. So the answer that I retained to my last satsang question is be radical. I agree. What does being radical mean to you? Leave everything, work, family. What do you enlighten about adapt? I won't be in satsang. Okay. So like I was saying, it has nothing to do what others believe to be radical or not. You see, if you're stuck in your spiritual path, you know that it's not evolving. And like you said, life has no interest for you. This is the way you describe it. Doesn't mean that it really is like this. You even describe it as boring, but it is there. It is occupying space that you would use more to this silence where you actually do feel better, where you actually feel more life in it, more purpose. So why aren't you staying there apart from being that which is boring, uninteresting? The question is obvious. So what does radical mean to me? Doesn't matter. For those of you who are in this situation or are seeing that this doesn't go, you will have to see according to your understanding of being radical, to what is keeping you, what is being an obstacle. And if you're looking for this, if you're seeing what is becoming a hindrance, because if you really want to see, you will see, if it is possessions, family, work, whatever. If it means leave everything, work and family, if it does, then do it. You see, I hear a lot of people saying that Buddha discovered the middle path, that he didn't have to leave family and all these things. But if he didn't, would he have become a Buddha? Probably not. Because when you're enlightened, nothing is needed. And see that story had no purpose. But is it really like this? Because is it the level of the enlightened one the same as the deluded one? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So for Buddha to know this middle path, this means a lot of things. A lot of things. And probably that sentence was taken out of context. For he to understand this, he had to to know his how do you say this? His extremes. Without those extremes, you would not be able to find that middle path. And some need it, some don't. Some is good. For others, it isn't. For those who are always light and they are very pondered and all these things, some radicalism is needed. Those who are heavily radical, well, temper that is because it is about beliefs, personal beliefs. So whatever that being radical means in the moment that you are now, whatever it is important. It will never be absolute. It's not that will solve everything, but it will open a door. It will open a passage. And if you don't, it doesn't matter if it is family, if it is possessions, if it is whatever. If you don't go through it, the passage will not open and you will stay where you are and you start to go back and go back and go back and go back. If you open that door, it gives you a direction and it brings circumstances that will be more suitable to your goal of freedom. Let's imagine if Buddha didn't left his palace, well, probably those who got in contact with him would not have that opportunity. He would not be known as he is today. He would not be an example as he was. So everything has a purpose in itself, apart from individual understanding. And sometimes, if not most of the times, to go beyond your world, this radical attitude is important. But understand that being radical has a specific term, because if you're a radical individual and you're always just doing everything which is radical and then perhaps middle grounds is being radical for you. If you're in the middle ground section or in the safety zone, going beyond that, diving into the unknown, doing something which the world deems crazy, well, that is radical for you. Something that shakes the structures of your world. Because, let's see, in this example, you say, okay, but this world doesn't disturb me. But still I'm wasting time with it. It's boring, but I'm there, just giving it attention. So why am I not going inwards? Well, option 1 that you've put here. Leave work, leave family, go somewhere else, abandon everything. Option number 1. Option number 2, which is more or less the same, in a sense, diving within, abstracting from work, from family, from everything, just staying there as long as possible, absorbed in that silence, in that stillness. In practical terms, it has the same effect. The body is just not moving somewhere. Sometimes the body has to move because it has to move, it is the story, and because there are needs for the practice that are there. Sometimes the body doesn't have to move, it stays still, and the rest goes or stays. It doesn't matter, it follows its own. Because if you disrupt that balance, what will happen? Okay, it is boring, it is there, it is boring, you're not interested, but still you're giving it time and attention. Because it is important for you superficially. That's not the case, so you have said. But if you stop giving it time, well, probably your family will come at you and demand that wasted time and threaten to leave. And that will shake that stability that you're experiencing. Like, no, but boring. Let's see if they threaten to leave. If your possessions threaten to leave you also, because if you're not investing in them, depending on what it is, they may be consumed and threaten to leave. What will happen to your boring then? If you leave your work and stop feeding all of these things, then what will happen to your boring world? Will it continue boring? Or will it reveal to you that that level of stability and boring and lack of interest It's like that only in summer and spring, because in autumn and winter things go down the drain. But sometimes you're so comfortable, so attached and deluded with yourself that you don't really understand how deep these things go onto you. So you will have to figure it out, what is the radical part in you. What you know is that your process is not intensifying, is not going anywhere. And you're wasting time with something you consider and classify as unimportant and boring at that level of experience. But understand, if you stop feeding the lions, they will come to you. They will come for your blood. That is the nature of delusion. So if your world is nice, peaceful, and shanti, that means you're giving it what it needs. And that means you're deluded. And that spiritual practice has become a part of that delusion. You see? Spiritual practice, enlightenment, is not a hobby. It is supposed to go all the way through, till the end. And nothing can stop that train until it reaches the end. That is the mindset. And everything that stands in the way has to go. And sometimes you need to be able to ask sincere questions to yourself and give sincere answers. But if your mind is just playing you, just to see what you need to see to maintain things as they are, then it will be difficult. So what do you enlighten about adapt? Adapt. Adapt to what? Adapt to circumstances. To find a space there. I can see by what we have talked so far that you're good at this adapting. But see what that has done to your process. A train that is on a track that has a lot of horsepower, that is moving and has a destiny, it doesn't adapt. It just moves in a straight line. The more straight it goes, the faster it arrives. This has to be the mindset. Yes, you'll break some eggs on the way. Yes, you will bring suffering to others. At least that's what appears to be, but it isn't. Everybody suffers through their own beliefs, not because of others. This is a mistake. But still, it is experienced like this. It will not be a perfect journey. You will let others down. And this will help you more and more to break these beliefs about yourself and the world, to cut your expectations of being accepted in the world, approved. This will actually relieve you, release you from the world. And you will have pains about this, and you will have to learn how to live with that. It is like this. It's nothing pink or it is difficult, it is hard. But you have to follow your destiny as a seeker of truth and to give the steps and grow in them. It is like this. And sometimes you will do things that you will find out after that you didn't need it. After you have outgrown that. But without it, you wouldn't have. So that which seems a mistake is not It is just an action needed in that moment, in that level of perception. It's like this. And there are things, there are tests that really hurt you, that really leaves you in the place of not understanding, of not being able to live with that and just surviving. A lot of times surviving that pain, but the work continues. The work continues. Then you will understand it later. Then you will understand it. But the impacts that those things have go beyond the level of understanding, of logic, of common sense. It's just different realities. And a real seeker of truth will not always, if any time, okay, some of the times depending on what it is, but will not always understand what he is doing now, and for the real reasons he's doing it, much less the others. The others will understand it even less, even less. Okay. So my friend with the funny questions. Hello, Sriman. Have you ever tried LSD or ayahuasca? What do you think about it? Well, I think I was crazy enough without any of these things. No need to put that on my tab. Okay, now for serious. If you're in the spiritual path, you are in the path of focusing, uplifting consciousness. And I understand this is a controversial subject, but I do not recommend any of these things. Whatever has to go, it has to go through its own mechanics. I'm not questioning the results that some people have. I've seen this a lot. And they say it is very good, but usually it doesn't. It's a difficult subject because, well, I will just stick on to don't recommend any of this. Whatever experiences that are important will come through your own work, through grace, and this opens a lot of doors that they do more harm than good. For those who think it is good for them, good for them. Well, I don't recommend any of this. No. So, I have to be radical in my realization desire. Well, if you're desiring realization, that is quite some radical thing in itself. I have to feed it more and more? Yes, always, always. Do you still have these kinds of pains? No, no. But if I had taken some LSD, I would probably have. Okay, let's... You see, when things get serious, they get serious. They don't need any of these things. You move directly in the more serious matter, more serious, more focused, more abstracted, more intense, more intense. These things are kindergarten things, kindergarten things. It doesn't matter if you have experiences or if you don't have experiences. They all come through a need of the history that you're having. Those who have intense spiritual experiences, they find themselves in difficulties. Because the level of experiences they had does not match what they're living, and they find themselves continuously attached to things and be unable to return to that level of experience, to that level of being, depending on the level of the experience that was. Those who don't have any spiritual experiences believe that when they have a spiritual experience, then things will be confirmed to them and they can really go through the spiritual path towards realization because now they are sure. But it doesn't make a difference. Sometimes to have that spiritual experience is more difficult to the individual experience because of the lack of ability to return to that than not having any. So it's just different experiences. None is better than the other. So it's like people usually say, the grass of the neighbor is always more green. It isn't, it's just grass. And this idea of the grass of the neighbor, it's that which brings you suffering and pain. Sometimes it's more difficult for those who had an intense experience of nothingness, of complete dissolution. Not complete, but for them it was complete. Then even to intensify spiritual practices to do something, it is difficult, especially according to what is being put forth today as Neo-Advaita. Because it matches, so nothing to do. But then the difficulty is to live that again. And it becomes a pain and a suffering, a longing, and it can create a lot of confusions. Also, not having spiritual experiences. Sometimes it brings doubt about the path, about the reality of things. So these are the downsides. But there's the how do you say this? Not the upsides, but the good parts of it. If you have the experience, you know where you have to move towards to. If you don't have the experience, well, you have the motivation to go to. Everything has an upside down, a good thing and a bad thing. Advantages, disadvantages. And understand that there's a lot of help, a lot of things there helping and supporting your path, but these days there's many more disturbing your spiritual path. So focus is very important. And a clear mind. Okay. So if there's no more questions, we will end for today. So next satsang will be Sunday, 9 o'clock, UTC -3. Next Sunday. You're welcome. If you look at worldly investments, just to finish, whatever you can pick, for sure, probably you have picked something, you have done something already. Whatever you pick and you try to evolve into excellence in what you're doing. In worldly terms, whatever it is that you're trying to perfect, to get to the highest level of perfection, of excellence, demands a lot of investment, complete focus. Complete focus. It demands all of your time. The more you want to perfect it, the more you want to develop that. It takes all your attention into it as you try to develop excellence. So what to say about the quest for freedom? What to say about that? My friends, there's no time to waste with anything else. And those reasons that are there substantiating all of that which you're losing time is just for you not to deal with your fears. It's just the ropes of your delusion that are showing themselves. Just that. Quest for freedom takes all of the time, all of the energy. Nothing else is there of relevance, of importance. And this word that it was used previously, adapting, that is just self-deception. Not a way to not disturbing the world, but a way to preserve it, Okay. So until Sunday, intensify your spiritual practices. If you have doubts about what was asked, if you want to deepen any aspect of it, ask the question, I will answer. And understand that whatever you're listening, it doesn't mean that it is the same for you, because I'm answering questions here. Of course, I also speak a little bit in general terms and speak directly to the person that is asking. But if you have the same question, it doesn't mean that the answer will be the same. There's always the particulars for the particular. So if you have a question, it doesn't matter if it has been already answered. It can be the same answer or it may not be. That will depend. So if you have any questions about this, it doesn't matter when you're watching this video, you can send. If Satsang Online is still going, then it will be answered. Okay? So until Sunday, intensify it, make it real for you.